Hello, I'm Keith Abraham. I'm CEO of Heroic Hearts Project UK, a charity aimed at helping UK military and emergency services veterans gain legal access to psychedelic therapy. The reason for starting this charity earlier this year is based on my own personal experiences. And in 2008, I was a paratrooper fighting in Afghanistan. And due to my warfighting experiences out there, I began to struggle psychologically and physically. And after trying numerous different modalities of therapies, I began to realize that I was losing hope and that these things weren't actually working for me. And before long, I was very fortunate to be introduced to a medicinal brew called ayahuasca. And I traveled out to Peru because it was illegal here in the UK and in Europe. I was forced to travel out to Peru and had a very, very healing, profoundly healing experience using ayahuasca. And I realized that after those experiences, psychologically at least, I had been healed. But when I came back to the UK and tried to tell other people in my community, in the veterans community, and just my wider circle of friends, I realized that no one had either heard of ayahuasca or really believed in its efficacy. And so I thought it might be time to start an organization to, one, spread the word about the benefits of psychedelic therapy, including MDMA and psilocybin, as well as ayahuasca, but to also help facilitate other veterans opportunities to engage with psychedelic therapy, because it takes a helping hand sometimes to get these veterans who do have a stigma about psychedelic therapy. They need a helping hand and a little bit of an organization and some structure to get them out to these experiences and build that trust. And so that's why I began starting up Heroic Hearts. And we've got a great team around us now, and we are raising awareness about the benefits of psychedelic therapy across society, specifically for veterans and emergency services veterans. And soon we hope to start operations in Peru and in the Netherlands. So Heroic Hearts was actually founded in the United States by my good friend Jesse Gould. And very similar to my own experience, Jesse went to Peru and experienced for himself the benefits of ayahuasca. Came home and realized that there was no structure in place for US vets to gain access to this type of therapy. And so decided to create Heroic Hearts with that in mind. And while I came back to the UK after my own experiences with ayahuasca, I realized that there was certainly nothing here in Europe or in the UK that was of what I had in mind. I was actually introduced to Jesse by a mutual friend of ours who owns a retreat center in Peru. And when I did my research on Jesse and Heroic Hearts in the US, I quickly realized that Jesse had created the very organization that I had always intended to. And so our intentions and our desires and our ambitions were actually perfectly aligned. And so instead of recreating the wheel here in the UK, I asked Jesse if I could simply take his brand and his intentions and his organizational structure and just recreate them here in the UK. Being the very kind man that he is, he agreed. And not only do we have Heroic Hearts in the US, but here in the UK, we're also opening up in Canada as well. So after returning from my warfighting experiences in Afghanistan, I became acutely aware of changes in my behavior, changes in behavior in my psychology, so in my mind, but also externally, and that they very, very quickly began to negatively influence my relationships, be that with my parents and my son, but also with my partner at the time. And it wasn't long, because I was lacking in the tools, and the other people, my relationships, also lacked the tools with how do we work with this trauma that I've experienced, none of us had the required tools to help me and our relationships. So I found that my partner and I soon were forced to separate because we couldn't cope with my behaviour. She couldn't cope with my behaviour, and I then found myself in another desperate situation. Not only was I struggling from my warfighting experiences, I'd now lost a significant partner of many years to this trauma, and so I began spiraling more and more and more at the loss and breakdown of relationships. And it was difficult for me as a father to see my son witness his father spiral out of control. I know that it was hard for my parents to witness that as well, of course. And so the point here is that these experiences, these traumas that we share, they don't just affect the individual. They didn't affect me. It broke down and harmed many of my relationships and caused me to find myself in trouble with the law on multiple occasions, and increases the stress, increases the trauma. What I found in my psychedelic experiences using ayahuasca and psilocybin and MDMA to help me through different aspects of my traumas, I found that what they generally do is, certainly speaking of psilocybin and ayahuasca, is that they provided me with a non-emotional, objective perspective of my trauma. And when I say non-emotional, I mean to say that it's very compassionate, very forgiving, and very loving, but non-emotional in the means that my own emotions to my trauma are removed from the equation. And so that I can view the trauma objectively and its effects on my behavior objectively, which is a profoundly valuable tool. And one that I'm eternally grateful for, because it's a tool that can be employed in my normal waking life as well. But I think in addition to that, the value of ayahuasca, psilocybin, but also MDMA, is that they introduce you to the possibility, I would call it a reality, that everything is connected. There's an interconnectedness to life and all forms of life. And so that it forms a very compassionate, forgiving, I've used those words again, compassionate and forgiving perspective on all life. And that's not just me, so I don't just love myself more and respect myself more. I also am more compassionate towards my relationships, and I'm more forgiving of myself and the people that I'm in relationships with, which I think what a wonderful gift that is. But also it opens me up to provide me with a basis of which I can be of service to my wider community and society as a whole, which leads back into my work here at Heroic Hearts, but also what I do professionally. It helps me better understand people's sufferings and how I might be able to be of some small service to those people, especially those within the veterans community, because of our shared very similar traumas. And that relates also to emergency services veterans, because police, fire, paramedics, we do share similar traumas. So that's why I've opened the charity up to involve those communities, because of those similarities. And so what a lovely gift psychedelic therapy is, an introduction into the reality that all things are connected, but also taught me compassion and forgiveness and self-love. Wonderful gifts. The scale of the problem in the UK veterans communities, both military and emergency services, is huge. Speaking personally from a veteran, for the veterans community, the scale of post-traumatic stress disorder is hard to properly evaluate, but there are certainly many hundreds, if not thousands, of military veterans struggling with PTSD, whether they've been diagnosed or not. Even if they haven't been diagnosed with PTSD, there are certainly perhaps hundreds of thousands, given the scale of conflict that the UK has been involved in over the recent decades. Potentially hundreds of thousands of veterans, including emergency services veterans, struggling with, if not PTSD, certainly depression and anxiety related directly to their professional role. And we are finding that for some reason, which has only been touched on, we're finding that a lot of veterans are treatment resistant to many different therapeutic modalities. Certainly, talking therapies is a good example of that. And pharmaceuticals have, for the most part, are unhelpful, but can also be a hindrance to therapy. Obviously, it helps some, but there are many examples of where it's actually made the problem worse. And so I find that, again, speaking from the veterans communities, I find that there's a dangerous hopelessness in a lot of cases that through either government advice or the NHS or privately looking for therapeutic options, people are finding that many of them don't work, and that they are, instead of healing therapies, they are management tools. And management tools can be valuable for sure, but what we're talking about is healing people from their problems and helping them heal from their issues and their traumas. And I'm a strong believer that psychedelic therapy is a very valid way of healing and is not a management tool, and which is a brave statement, but there is evidence to suggest that I might be right. And we're keen to engage with research studies to obtain more evidence to support this claim. But anecdotal evidence seems overwhelming, and we're just waiting for the scientific community to catch up, and we'll do everything that we can to assist in that process too. The Schedule 1 status of psychedelics here in the UK is more than a barrier to just our access now, because many veterans are committing suicide. Countless numbers of veterans are committing suicide right now. So while our work here at Heroic Hearts enabling us to facilitate healing opportunities in countries where these therapies are legal, and that's very valuable, people are dying here in the UK now, today. People are killing themselves because of the traumas that they've experienced in their professional roles, be that in war fighting in Afghanistan, or just be that through experiences like Grenfell, perhaps, or the 7/7 bombings in London all those years ago. People are killing themselves because of these traumas that they've experienced, and there are effective therapies that exist. Psychedelic therapies are here now, and they are doing the work. So Schedule 1 is not only keeping us from being able to do research to then further convince the scientific community and wider society and government as a whole of their effectiveness. Not only is it doing that, but it's caused people are losing hope. People in these communities are losing hope, and that ends with suicide in too many cases. And it's heartbreaking and it's cruel to have this scheduling in place that is not based on science in any way. It's based on stigma over decades, and it's cruel, and it urgently needs to be looked at.